Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Bloodstone. It has been a little while for us, so please be patient with us as we kind of get things rolling again on our stream here. It has been close to a month since episode 13. Things happening, people being away, there being a little bit of technical difficulties last week. But we are back. We are excited to bring you some more 5th edition D&D in the world of Bloodstone. I am your DM, 8BitPonies. My cast, at least 4 of the members of my cast are here. Mr. Vamp will be along very, very shortly, we hope. Daddy Detail is always the most important thing. Hey guys, how's it going?
Great.
Fantastic, man. I'm ready to do this thing.
Squeedly
Wonderful.
and Meadley's are go. Looks like everything is happening the way that it should be, except for our map. We'll just do a little bit of this. Alright, there we go. Okay, well then, without any further ado, when last we left our intrepid group of adventurers, the party was in the midst of several different personal events, I suppose. Thoros'l, Sprout, and Alanere had gone hunting to try to find evidence of the person who had attacked Eldrick in the streets of the Purse district, and found something. A message sent through magical means to Thoros'l tipped him off that whoever the origin of that message was nearby, and he just happened to catch a glimpse of a mysterious figure with red hair as he or she or they ducked behind a corner out of sight. Giving chase, Thoros'l reached the position that the figure had disappeared and found that it was very likely the figure had used magical means to escape once they were out of sight. Frustrated by that, but nonetheless undeterred, the party split, Thoros'l returning home and encountering Makaria on her way back from some other appointment perhaps, walking alongside a strange gray-skinned figure that he did not know. He followed her back to the Bloodstone Arms, but that was only after a quick trip to the Starry Night, where he met with Pardic Wolfswift, aka Pardic Talendar, a sometimes ally, sometimes antagonist from the party's past, a noble son of Sylvia, and the leader of the Gold Coins mercenary band. Due to some entanglements with Pardic in the past, and Pardic's family, the party and the Talendars are not on the best of terms, as Eldrick was accused of murdering Pardic's father, and the rest and the party was involved, or at least involved is the right word, in the death of Pardic's younger brother Watlin. Thoros'l carried his magical longsword for a good many months. The reason that Pardic had contacted Thoros'l in the first place is that Thoros'l had sent a letter to the Talendar family offering to return the sword. In the meantime, Alanere, eager to meet with his, employer or benefactor, the Queen of Bloodstone, Christine Dragonsbane, traveled outside the city walls to the Shadow Gap, a slum district that resides outside the city walls between the city itself and a natural outcropping of hills to the northeast. There within the Shadow Gap, in a tavern, or beneath a tavern, called the Shadow's Rest, Alanere discovered the Queen, bleeding and perhaps near death, gasping for breath, her eyes falling upon Alanere and widening in shock or horror. we'll get back to that particular moment in just a few. But before we do that, the one person that we didn't get to hear from last time was Sprout. After the chase of the shadowy figure, the shadowy red-haired figure that Thoros'l spotted, Sprout and Dal were, for the most part, left to their own devices. So we're going to pick up right there, just before, we'll say, 10th bell in the evening, as Sprout and Dal are left by Thoros'l and Alanere, who are both going off to their own events, and we'll let Sprout decide what he and his new companion are going to do. So we'll say, for sake of argument, or for sake of brevity, you are on the road leading back toward the Coinholm district and heading back toward the Bloodstone Arms. But if that is not necessarily your immediate destination, then where is Sprout? What would you like to do this evening? You are effectively alone. You have nothing ready, nothing really pressing to do besides just go back and get some rest. What would you like to do with your new friend?
We're just throwing the word friend around very loosely, I feel.
New servant, then?
We'll go with friend. That'll work for now. Dal, I've got some questions.
Well, I'm sure I've got answers for you. You go right ahead and ask away.
I don't know your tale, and I don't know how you ended up working for Zaxxas or working with Zaxxas. I don't even know if you would term working for or working with. And I also don't know what your goals are. Like, what do you hope to accomplish? What did he promise you? And how do you feel that he has treated you? I mean, what has he done to earn your devotion?
I assume that you're kind of walking as you're talking. You're just kind of...
Yes, we are currently walking back towards the Bloodstone.
Okay. He says, "Well, that's a pretty big question there, Sprout. That's a lot, but if you've got time, I don't mind telling the tale. It seems to me, though, that really what you're asking is it worth it? I feel like you're kind of a little bit hesitant, given that you know who is what you know who is, and well, I understand. I understand your hesitation. It's not every day that you get asked to save the world or help save the world by an undead beholder. But if hearing my story and my perspective on things helps you make your decision, then well, I'm happy to tell you. First, let me tell you another story. And he kind of gets quiet for a few paces, maybe more than a few paces. I have to say, this isn't an easy story to tell. But you asked. Once upon a time, not so terribly long ago, there was a hen fellow, who lived in the Warrenwood. That's just to the north and west of here. If you if you're not big on geography, and why would you be? You're not from around here.
Accurate.
He had a family. He had a wife. He had 2 darling children, a boy and a girl. And then the war came. And, well, as wars are wont to do, it was a bit on the destructive side, and the Bloodstone Valley area, which is where the Warren Wood is found, well, it was where most of the early fighting happened, and there's not much left of the Warren Wood. We'll just leave it at that. This Hen fellow, Hen's what we halflings call ourselves. It's the more acceptable term rather than you human. Oh well, you're not human, but the humans call us halflings, but we call each other Hen. I don't know if you knew that, but lesson for you, sociology lesson for you there. Well, this Hen fella, he lost, well, pretty much everything: family, home, his sense of worth. And he wandered for a really long time. Really didn't know much what he was going to do after that. Honestly started to question whether or not this life had anything left for him. You understand where I'm going with this? It sounds a bit like your own story if I'm not putting too fine a point on it.
It's accurate. The stories are similar. They do line up. There's a little bit of differences. But I'm curious, from my perspective, like from what I've experienced, beholders are not to be trusted, and I have trouble trusting them, as my previous experiences have been very volatile in the opposite direction of trust. And so I'm finding myself torn with what I would like to believe in, and also what my experiences told me. And so I'm trying to get perspective on whether I can trust him, and also what I should do versus what I can do.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me. All I can give you is my own personal perspective, and I'll say that, well, when I was found by you-know-who, I had the very much same initial reaction as you did, but I was at my very lowest point in life, and I didn't really have much else to go on, and so I said, what the hey? Maybe I'll actually do some good, and if not, well, then the worst thing that can happen is I become dinner for some undead creature, right? And I can say that in the years since, he's not led me wrong. Or I don't know what he prefers. It prefers. Zach, you know who.
I do. How long have you been with him?
Oh, not long. 3-4 years now, I suppose. After what happened, spent a lot of time questioning. I imagine same as you. Spent a lot of time in drink, a lot of time in bars and taverns and casinos, drifting from place to place. Well, it was not the best time in my life. And when I was, well, close to rock bottom, I suppose, well, I imagine that my experience was very much the same as yours. I was cold, in a way similar to I understand you were. I was tested, and once that was over, I found myself. You asked working for or working with, and I don't like to think of it that way. I like to think that I'm doing what I would have done had circumstances been better for me. I feel as though you-know-who more enabled that than directed it, though guidance has been a big part as well.
You said that you've been with Zaxxas for 3 years.
Thereabouts.
What have you been doing for this time?
Oh, small things here and there. Helping out smaller villages that are pressed either by the elements or occasional band of raiders. There are fighters, as you learned. There are fighters within our midst. I'm not one, but I have my own gifts that I offer. And he kind of, at that, he kind of begins fingering the kind of medallion that he wears around his neck, kind of absently. I don't know. A lot of research, I suppose, looking into different people within the kingdom, ferreting out bands of bandits and thieves and anyone who would want to do harm to others or enrich themselves at the cost of others. It's difficult to get into much more specifics than that, but it hasn't. There hasn't been very many things that I've been asked to do, at least not directly. Apart from wandering a bit, looking for folks like yourself.
How did you guys find me or come to know about me or know of my existence? I haven't even been here that long.
Oh, that's all left up to the big man, or the big thing, I suppose. The big guy. I don't know how he knows what he knows, but he just always seems to know when there's someone. How he could have known about me? I was just nobody. Just a drunk, lost, wandering, until he found me. I guess he just senses it. Maybe there's some magical meaning behind it all, but honestly, it never even occurred to me to question. I'm just grateful, really. I won't lie to you. It's not like we're a family or nothing. We're not. I barely even know the other fellers, and the lady. We sometimes get paired up. We sometimes get grouped up, but there's not really a lot of talking. Just we go and do the thing, and then I suppose, are let go for a time until we're called upon again.
I noticed that he fingered his medallion. I'll gesture towards it and ask what it is.
Oh, you mean this? Oh, well, this was me brother's. He pulls it out, and it's a chain, and it's got a kind of a sheaf of wheat, kind of intermingled in with flowers. The object on the necklace is a little charm with a sheaf of wheat and flowers. He was me brother. He was a priest or cleric, I suppose you'd say, of the goddess Shalia. She's pretty special to our kind, us Hin. When what happened, he left this to me, or gave this to me, I suppose, and I honestly can't say why, but I suppose she favored me as well, and well, I wouldn't say that I'm really much of a cleric. I'm not all that good, I'm not all that close to her, actually, but we kind of have an understanding, she and I.
What was her name again?
Shalia. I'll put it in the chat for you.
Thank you.
Me brother, Martik, he was the Hin in that story, by the way. He never found his way back. It was all too much. We lost him just a few years before, a few years after the war, I suppose. And his lot was even worse than mine. I don't have much more to say about that.
Fair enough. Thank you.
What is it that you're looking for? If I might be so bold as to ask.
Well, until recently, I didn't think that there was any possibility for saving my world, so I kind of mentally braced myself for kind of trying to figure out where to go and what to do, with one of the options basically to be, as pathetic as I am, an attempt to be a protector for other realms that aren't as versed with their being other worlds. But I hadn't come to any definitive plans as of yet. Until probably about a week ago, maybe even less, I wasn't even in my own mind. So I'm trying to figure out where I am. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing, and I'm trying to figure out what I should be doing. So I don't know. A pointed question that I don't have a good answer for.
Well, as causes go, this one's not terrible. I can tell you that. It's not steady work, I suppose. But it does give a bit of a sense of purpose, I suppose. Just something to do to keep the darkness at bay. You feel the feeling that you get from doing something good. Well, it's fleeting, I imagine, but maybe it's enough.
If I wanted to talk to Zaxxas, how could I do that?
All you have to do is ask. He'll know. About that time, you hear a loud voice. Clear the road! Make way! Clear the road! And you see a procession of armored men, and perhaps women, heavily armored, and all dressed in gold and purple. On their tabards, they have a device that looks like a shield, with a field of purple and a golden sword crossing the field. And they appear to be escorting a carriage which carries the same kind of finery. Make way for the Baroness Sylvia. Clear the road. And they are rumbling down the road in your direction. And they appear to be not getting physical with people, but definitely being interposing and ushering people out of the way as this fairly opulent-looking carriage is rumbling down the road in your direction.
I will move off to the side and kind of put a hand on Dal to also direct him so that he doesn't get trampled or run over. And I will try and go to the side of the road that would give me the best vantage point for what is coming.
Okay. You're a tall fellow, so you get off the side of the road just as the first rank of these guards or soldiers or whatever reach you, and they don't have to. Obviously, they don't get physical with you, but they are, kind of bullying people off the sides of the roads. People who are too slow, they're physically helping them move, we'll say. Not too
Very
kindly,
kind of them.
not too kindly pushing people around, pushing them out of the way and off to the side of the road. There's a little bit of a clamor, but nobody, the arms and armor that these people are wearing almost immediately quash any sort of resistance that there might be as people realize what's happening, realize that they're being shunted off the side of the road, and then realize who and what is doing it. They clam up pretty quickly and get to one side. So the carriage starts to pass. You see that it is a very lavish affair. It is draped with purple and gold silks, It is very ornate wooden carriage, brass railings, and fixtures and accoutrements, being pulled by 4 white horses, also with barding that is in the same gold and purple color. The same symbol is festooned literally all over the place. You can make a history check at disadvantage to determine if this is something that you have ever seen before. It's very unlikely, but it is a possibility. Wow.
It will be a 22.
Okay, yeah. Well, even with disadvantage, that's pretty fantastic. So you've
Okay, I'll roll poorly when it matters.
when it matters. You've been trying to kind of get the lay of the land, and you've seen maps and things, and specifically on the maps of the Bloodstone Kingdom, you have seen that there is a province that is just to the south and west of here, like just around the lake from where you are right now, called Ostel, that bears this same symbol. And when you heard the name the Baroness Sylvia, that is the equivalent of Eldrick in the province of Ostel. You know very little about Sylvia or Ostel itself, other than where it is geographically, and that it bears this symbol. That's the symbol of the barony itself. But
you said that was where at in?
I'll show you.
Within the city?
It's not in the city. It's within the kingdom. But I'll show you where it is. Bear with me just a second.
Okay.
Alright, so on the map of Bloodstone, which is where we are, actually this is the entirety of the campaign area, but so right here, this is the country of Bloodstone, if you're looking at the map, and where you are currently is right about here on the northwest shore of the Lake Mogador. Ostel essentially starts on the other side of the river, and is most of the geography from here down to the border.
Okay.
A couple hundred miles, or maybe 100 miles or so to the west, and all the way south down to the mountains. It's a fairly sizable chunk of the Bloodstone Kingdom, and yeah, it begins just on the other side of this river. The river we're talking about is the one that runs through or just outside Heliogabalus, the Beaumaris River.
Is Heliogabalus the largest city in this kind of provincial area?
It is. It is the largest city in the Bloodstone Kingdom.
Okay. Do I have any reason or inquisitive thoughts in regards to Baroness Sylvia at all? Like, is this something that I would just completely ignore, or is this something that I would take notice of and maybe ask people about, or would I not even give it a second thought?
Put it on your dresser, Daddy. Look at it tomorrow.
That's entirely up to you. It's you haven't heard anything about Sylvia that you probably haven't heard anything directly about Sylvia at all.
Okay.
But you just heard her name mentioned or seen her name written in relation to the barony of Ostel. But as the carriage passes, you recognize. So you're actively trying to get a good look at the carriage itself and what's inside of it, if possible. Yeah. Go ahead and make me a perception check.
Remember when I said it wouldn't matter?
15's not bad.
Okay.
That is a 15.
Could be worse.
So
that is a 15.
Kind of leaning out the window to the carriage is a girl. She is dressed in a green dress, and you can only basically just see her arm and her shoulder, and a long, fiery shock of red hair. As she's just kind of leaning out and watching things as the carriages pass, and she, maybe catches eyes with you, and she's got these brilliant, flashing green eyes. She looks young. She looks probably like she's in her mid to late teens. Certainly not the picture of a Baroness, Sylvia, but a young woman, pretty. She kind of locks eyes with you and gives you favors you with a slight smile. You see, she has freckles. And then as the carriage continues on, she passes and she is gone. And you can see she's just kind of leaning out the window, watching as things go by, or watching as the carriage goes by, the things that they are passing. And yeah, that's what you see. With a 15, you probably notice that there are more people inside the carriage, but you're not able to recognize like faces or anything like that. You can just tell that she's blocking up much of the window, and you can see that there are other people inside of it, but that's it. 3 or 4 more people within.
Did you say it was about 10 at night?
Yeah, thereabouts. In fact, right about now, the 10th bell will start to ring out. And you can still hear, as the carriage rumbles past, the same voice calling out, as one of the lead soldiers is still calling for people to make way and clear the road. Make way for the Baroness Sylvia, just over and over again. But he's kind of drowned out a little bit by the bells.
I'll lean over to Dal and I will ask him, Dal, how good are you at following people without them knowing? And how good are you at finding out information? Nothing dangerous, just curious.
I suppose I'm not really the stealthy sort. I do sort of I kind of fit into crowds. People often look over us but I don't mind trying. You've got someone you want me to follow?
I'm curious about this. That seems awfully late in the evening for a carriage with an entire family be traveling. I figured that they would want to do this more during the daytime and not in the evening. And I'm curious why they are going so late and so quickly with such a flourish. Do you think you could try and find some of this out for me?
I could certainly ask. You want me to do that?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, I suppose we'll meet back at the Arms.
Yes, absolutely.
Will you have dinner ready?
I will make sure that dinner is ready for you. Yes, although I don't know that we can ever sate your appetite.
All right. Well, then you focus on getting us some food and drink, lots of drink, and I'll see what I can figure out.
Thank you.
All right. Well, he kind of gives you a little bit of a nod, like a little half bow. He says, "Well then, Grey Wanderer, I suppose I'll see you back at the old homestead, as it were."
Indeed. Be careful.
And he kind of gives you a little, like a gesture, like pshaw, favors you with a smile, and then turns and darts off to blend into the crowd. All right. What are you? Is that the end for you for the evening? Are you going to go back to the Arms? What else are you going to do?
I'm going to go back to the Arms, and I'm going to let the bartender know to have a meal set aside for Hendal, so that when he comes in, he has food and beverage available.
Well, Lazar, who is on duty this evening, smiles and gives you kind of a knowing nod, and he says, "I'll see what we can pull together. Dinner's been over for quite some time. You guys actually had dinner before you came out, a little while ago, but
Just first dinner, not second dinner.
exactly. I like how you think. But yeah, Lazar gives you, like I said, a knowing smile and nod, and he says, "We'll pull something together. Send it up to your room.
Please.
If your friend returns, then I should send him up as well.
Yes, please.
It will be done."
I appreciate that. Have a good evening, good sir.
He's like, but just a moment. He reaches down below the bar and pulls up a basket that is brimming with bottles of mead. Like, I had a feeling we'd be seeing you again this evening.
You are too good, sir.
He kind of settles it onto the bar and turns back, gives you a nod again, a bit of a wink, and returns to his business.
Is his business writing on a note behind the bar plus 20 G's Eldrick Oks?
I was literally going to type something like that in our party chat.
I figured.
He may or may not be tallying up yet another major expenditure to bill to the Oaks household. Indeed.
As I'm walking away, I will say, make sure and add a generous amount for yourself, good sir.
My good sir, it is you who are too kind. All right, so then Sprout will return to his room, having sent Dal off on a fact-finding mission, and that is where we will leave Sprout for the time being.
Eventually, I'll grow into a full-fledged plant.
We've got a little bit of time between when Sprout gets here and Thoros'l, Makaria return. But I think we already determined that by the time Thoros'l got back to the inn proper, that Makaria and her guest, whoever that was, had already disappeared back up to Makaria's room, and Thoros'l didn't press.
Thoros'l waited intentionally for them to be out of the room. Yeah.
Okay, then I'm gonna change up the music here a little bit. We will return to the Shadow's Rest. Bear with me just a second while I set up some different tunes, perhaps. Let's see. There we go. All right. So when we left off with Alanere, you had just delved down into the depths of the cellar within the Shadow's Rest to find that you were not alone. Bloodstains, heavy drag marks, and a trail of blood led you back to the back room of the cellar, back around in this area. The cellar is otherwise quiet. It is very, very dark. It's difficult to see, or would be difficult to see if it weren't for your infravision. But there's just kind of this oppressive feeling that the entire time that you're there, that you're being watched. Go ahead.
But I believe I'd also basically had cast a produce flame to basically have a...
You did. Yeah, so as...
some light.
As you finish your spell and you light, a ball of flame appears in your hand, you see at the end of this long trail of blood that pools on the floor, against the wall back here on the far western side of the building is a chair. Draped in that chair is a woman who is not dressed the way that you recently saw Queen Christine, but it is unmistakably her. Her auburn hair is matted with blood. Her simple leathers, clothing, they are torn and slashed, and deep, garish wounds show from beneath the rends in the leather, the rends in her clothing. She is very clearly badly wounded, perhaps mortally so. She lay there in the chair, eyes wide, her face pale, smeared with blood, perhaps her own, gasping, seemingly struggling to draw breath. She notices the light as your flame bursts into existence. Her head just barely weakly turns to face you. She sees you, and her eyes go wide. What do you do?
Alanere's eyes go wide himself, in a bit of surprise. And he'll kind of rush over to her. She's not tied or anything. She's just kind of like
She appears to just be kind of draped, like maybe not that she sat in the chair, or maybe that she was sat in the chair or fell into the chair, as she doesn't even really seem to be sitting. She just kind of laid back over the back of the chair. She's kind of nominally sitting in it, but more is just that's where she landed, perhaps. And as you step up, a figure that you didn't previously see steps out of the darkness, and with a long black blade, places it against the throat of Queen Christine and says, "That will be far enough, thank you." 1 second as I make some adjustments to the map. So we have Alanere. We have the Queen. We have the figure. What do you do now?
He'll will definitely stop at that, and he'll ask, "Who are you?"
In the light of your fire, you can see that this figure is covered head to toe in dark gray and black. But it cannot, even the hood and the very voluminous cloak cannot hide from you the dark, dusky gray to black skin of a drow. He says, "I'm the one running the show here. Right?" He kind of leans into the blade, and you see the tip of it, just the very tip of his long, like rapier-like weapon, digs into the flesh of the queen, and she does not react. She's still choking, gasping for air, but the additional wound or the additional prick of her skin doesn't seem to register on her face at all, as if she's beyond feeling it.
Alanere will say, "It appears so. So what do you want?"
He gives a smile. White teeth show against black flesh. "You and I are going to have a short conversation. A short conversation. But first," he kind of motions over to the barrel that is sitting over here, and on the barrel is a mug. Just a single lone tankard. "Why don't we have a drink?"
I'm not much of a drinking mood.
I'd
I'd much rather know what you want.
I think you'll find that you are. You must have worked up a thirst on your way here. Have a drink. I insist.
Well, it would be rude of me to drink before the host.
By all means. He reaches behind the tankard, or the big keg here, and produces a mug of his own. And he lifts it. He lifts it in his left hand, other hand still on the rapier pressed against the queen's throat. Just beginning to draw a little dribble of blood at the soft part of her neck. "To your health. And to the health of your hostess." And he takes a long pull. from his cup.
Well, with such a bad predicament, he will slowly make his way over to the mug and take a drink.
Excellent. There is a bit of a gritty texture. It's ale. It's warm. Signaling to you that it's probably been there for a little while, but there's a little bit of a gritty texture to it. Like the maybe the mug was dirty, or perhaps there's something in it.
Or poisoned.
Go ahead and make me a Constitution check.
Gee.
A Constitution
I didn't see
saving
that
throw.
one coming. Constitution saving throw. Dice do not fail me now.
27, natural 20.
Oh, nat 20.
Very, very nice.
It
Okay,
did
so
not fail me.
So you you immediately recognize there's something wrong here. You feel the kind of the grit in your mouth, denoting that something has been added to this ale. Before you actually swallow any of it, you are able to recognize that. There's no immediate concern, like nothing burns or anything like that. But with that Constitution saving throw, you were able to detect the presence of the additive, I suppose, before you actually swallow it. Do you continue to swallow, or do you do something else?
Man, I don't think I have anything else I could do with it.
The figure is watching you. Christine has not moved. She didn't follow you as you moved over to the other corner.
Oh yeah, I assume she's not moving.
She's not moving at all. She's just lying there in the chair, potentially pumping out the remainder of her blood into a ever-growing pool beneath her. I'm sorry. I hate to do this, but I have to take just a short step away. I'm so sorry. I hate to break this, but bear with me just a second. We will be right back. And we are back. Sorry about that, and doubly sorry that it sounds like I didn't turn off the microphone whenever I went away. So, just a little glimpse into my oldest, Copperlocks, is sitting down here with me this evening, as her mother is away. But we're going to slide right past that and get right back into the action. So, Alanere, you have a decision to make.
Yeah, he's gonna kind of like almost swish into his mouth, and then just kind of do one of those things where like he just kind of like tilts his head down and opens his mouth, and it just like falls straight to the ground.
Are you trying to do it
Like
in a
all the
stealthy
liquid in his
fashion?
mouth. Yeah, just kind of like.
Okay. Make me a stealth or sleight of hand check to see if you can do it without being noticed. He is watching you, but you do have the benefit of having the only light source in the room, and you're holding it essentially in front of you. So you could potentially sneak this by if you roll well enough.
Ooh. Is it sleight of hand or stealth?
Either one, you can choose.
Well, it's gonna be the same score, so it doesn't matter.
There you go.
Oh, 20 total.
Okay. All right. So I will make a check for him. His perception. He is at disadvantage because you are currently in bright light, and he is a drow. So we will roll for him at disadvantage. Okay. So you take a long drink and then set down the mug, and as you're kind of reacting to the grit, recognize as likely some kind of poison in the mug. You kind of drop your head down a little bit and let the contents run out of your mouth, even as you kind of lift the burning globe in your hand up to your head to kind of block his vision. You can tell he kind of squints and is forced to look away as you bring up the light. And he's trying to watch you, but you think that you probably sneaked it by him. What is your next move?
I'll kind of like give like a disgusted look, or not like a look, but like a reaction, like be like, that swill was horrible.
You don't like it. Do you often drink Helmstone? Go
I
ahead.
know what Helmstone is.
Go ahead and make me either a nature or arcana check. It's a concoction we distilled specifically for you. Helmstone with a 26. Jesus.
Yeah.
Helmstone refers to a very rare substance, well, not as rare as wizards and practitioners of the arcane wish, but Helmstone refers to a fairly rare stone, actually, that comes from a region far to the west called the Helmlands, which were the hardest hit in the time of troubles, specifically around the whole wild magic, the wild magic being rampant in the realms. And Helmstone specifically refers to some mineral deposits that were taken from that have been taken from those lands that are entirely magic dead, and they radiate dead magic.
Oh, that would have been nasty.
And you can even feel, as he mentions Helmstone, a quiver goes down the back of your neck, down your spine. You realize, oh God, if you had that in you, say goodbye to anything arcane or anything magical that you were hoping to do in the near future.
Yeah.
Well then, the figure across the way from you kind of takes a step forward, still holding his weapon on the queen. Says, now that you've partaken of our special hospitality, we should have a discussion. The long and short of it is that you now belong to us, just as she does. The two of you are coming with us. You have been a thorn in the side of, well, we'll say my employer, for entirely too long, and you are effectively being removed from the board. Does any of this sound particularly unhospitable for you? Do you have any?
I mean, I don't like any bit of this. I don't know who your employer is, who you are.
That's
or
just
where
the
we're
way.
going.
That's just the way we like it. As for where we're going, well, that shouldn't matter too much. All that you should be aware of is that you will never see the light of the sun again. At least not for a very long time. The important thing, I suppose, for you is that we've been instructed not to kill you outright. Or her. Though, well, accidents do happen. He leans in on the blade a little bit, and she actually does flinch this time. And it tears a little bit of the skin right above her collarbone as she kind of tries to flinch away from the blade, but is just entirely too weak to do so. And it manages, rivulets of blood start running down. It's not like her throat is cut, but she's definitely been wounded again. Accidents do happen, so try not to resist.
Yes, lead on.
Well, you don't think that we're going to fail to take the proper precautions. And at that, you hear a pair of boots hit the stone or the dirt floor behind you as another figure drops from above, perhaps, and lands directly behind you. And hands are upon you immediately. Do you resist?
No. But I'm more or less looking for the second where that Draugg drops his guard and he lowers the blade off of her flesh.
Well, that
But
moment,
until then, I'm not resisting.
that moment doesn't come, at least not right away, as almost immediately after you hear the sound behind you and hands grasp your shoulders, everything goes dark as something like a bag is roughly pulled down over your face, pulled down over your head. You feel your arms being pulled back behind you, and you hear the clanking of what sound like manacles.
All right.
And that so still not resisting, just gonna let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point, I'm gotta try and use my hearing.
Okay.
Basically, wait to see if I can, like, between her labored breathing and any sound the drow makes, to where like they're separated. But
Okay.
until that point, like, I'm not gonna resist.
Go ahead and make me a perception check. As your hands are forced back behind you, you feel manacles being clamped around your wrists, and you can feel that they're very tight. Like you have not very much wiggle room. You hear another set being unshackled, and perhaps a third individual approaching you from the front. And yeah, lights are out. I assume that you are. Do you still have your produce flame, your fireball in your hand?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I guess when they grabbed me, that probably would have. Actually,
It doesn't break your concentration unless you let it, and it's a concentration spell, so you can keep it or not, but that's entirely up to you.
there's tankards of alcohol down here. Are there any that were like exposed, like had like the lid open or anything?
Not that you can tell. I mean, there are a number of casks down here, but the alcohol content in like an ale or a weak wine is not going to be enough to be
Probably
explosive.
It's explosive. All right.
And remember, viewers, this is why you always tell somebody where you're going when you're going to a clandestine meeting.
Shush, Bane. You know what? No, I will go ahead and drop the spell. I
Okay.
want them to kind of like feel like we have things well in hand.
Okay. A second set of manacles are placed around your ankles, effectively hobbling you, and then you are roughly pushed and at the same time dragged away. You speak Elvish, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You hear, as you're being pulled away, you hear the first voice, or the first person, same voice, but in a different language. Obviously, it's in heavily accented Elvish, likely a Drow dialect. You've probably heard some before, so it's not difficult for you to recognize. You hear, "Take him. I'll finish up with her." And they start pulling you away.
Yeah, no, the second I hear that, I want to shapeshift.
Go ahead and make me, before you do that, go ahead and make me a perception check. You said specifically that you're using your hearing.
Yes.
Go ahead. A 25.
25.
As you hear him say that, you hear the gasping voice, the gasping, hard breathing of Queen Christine stop, and then there's like a shifting sound, and then as he says, "I'll finish here with her," you hear almost a laugh, like a stifled laugh, but not from him, but coming from the direction of Christine. But it's not Christine's voice. Like it's just like a a chuckle that is almost immediately cut off.
All right. Yeah, at this point, I am going to shapeshift.
Okay, let's go ahead then and roll for initiative.
All right.
Yay.
There's a reason that I decided to walk here and not shapeshift.
All right. Okay, so then we will go ahead and roll for initiative. I will roll for our antagonists. I'm gonna mute. Who is? I think that's you, Vamp. Do you mind muting whenever you're not on? There's a lot of background noise coming from you, I think. Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right. So
I will need control of the token so that I can click on it for initiative.
yes, sir. Bear with me just a second. I don't know why it changes every single time that I move it to a different map, but you should have control of it now. Right?
Yep, I do. Okay.
All right. So
Now you should be able to roll initiative.
ooh, that's a natural 1.
Oh, I knew my rolls were coming to an end.
All right. Bear with me for just a second as I add all of these things to our initiative tracker. Things changed on the Roll20 side, so things are a little bit different. There we go. Oh, you already got it added. That's good. There we go. Add that. Okay. Add turn, and then
If you roll bad enough, you get to re-roll, right? I mean, it's a new character, but you still get to re-roll.
you get to roll as a new character. That's correct. All right, so that's a. Okay, that's the thing, and I gotta change those numbers. So that is a 9 plus. I really should have been more ready for you to take this this particular track, and I'm not. So you'll have to bear with me for just one more second.
I mean, it is Alucard. You can never prepare.
That is very, very true. I don't know why that is in my way. Get that out of there.
Man, out of all of us, that is a fact.
Right. If there was one person that was going to be the absolute spoiler for any plans that I might have, it is 100% Alanere.
See, I knew it was a trap.
Well, of course,
Trap
you know it's
for
a
who
trap.
is the question.
It's a trap.
All right, you hear then, so you are essentially last. As you start to kind of wrench away and begin to transform, you hear the one of the two drow standing nearest to you shout in Elvish, "He's shifting!" And he will immediately attempt to attack you. So he is going to pull a weapon as a free object interaction and attack you twice with his sword.
Right.
That is going to be, and see, you are considered restrained, so we'll figure out what that means, at least until you complete your shift.
Transformation, yeah.
Yeah, you are considered restrained, which means that your speed is 0, and all attack rolls against you have advantage. So, first attack against you from behind Fortunately for you, these guys are not the sneak attacking type. But,
Oh, that's good.
yeah, because that would be real bad. But
Yeah.
first attack is going to be, oh god, still bad, an 11, which is not going to be good enough.
No.
Second attack against you is going to be at a 19.
Yeah, that will hit.
19 gets you? Okay, so then he's going to do... So you feel... He takes a swing at you the first time, and the first one is just way off. You hear the short sword smash up against the cask next to you as you try to twist away from him as you begin your shift. The second one, unfortunately, does find its way through. He curses and stabs deep into you with his short sword, and you take 8 points of piercing damage and 17 points of poison damage as you feel his poison-laced short sword enter your body.
8 and then 17.
And you hear a shout from behind, the original voice say, "Bring him down! You can't let him escape!" This one takes a step away from you as you're shifting away, and you hear a clicking sound as he fires a point-blank crossbow at you. And he will
Ouch.
only get one attack because it's a crossbow, but it is still at advantage. So that is... Ooh, that's going to be a 24 to hit. So I'm guessing that one gets there as well.
Yeah, most definitely hits.
All right, so then D6 plus 4, 5 piercing damage, and I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
Come on, dice. Really don't. You got the one. That should be good enough, please. 14.
14 is just enough. You feel the dart strike you, or the bolt strike you, and you know the Drow are notorious for their poison-tipped crossbow bolts, and you feel this wave of nausea and then fatigue start to roll over you. And then it passes. You familiar enough with it, or perhaps it was just a glancing blow, and the adrenaline in your bloodstream burns away the poison for the moment. That will end their turn. That will take us to a character that you have yet to see. I need for you to... You hear, again, with your very high perception check from earlier listening, you hear a quick rattled string of arcane-sounding syllables, and I need for you to make a wisdom saving throw. I think. Let me just confirm that it is a wisdom saving throw. Oh, come on.
It's a wisdom saving throw, not a wise guy saving throw. Very different.
A wise guy? Yeah, it is a wisdom saving throw.
15.
15 is exactly, once again, exactly what you needed. You hear the ringing sound, or the sibilant sounds of whispers of a spellcaster somewhere nearby attempting to cast a spell, and you feel this wave of arcane energy wash over you. Your limbs start to lock up. You recognize the feeling of a hold person spell attempting to grasp you, gain purchase on your mind. And once again, as you're in mid-shift into an animal form, just that animalistic instinct, you clamp down on that feeling and break the hold of the arcane spell as it attempts to paralyze you in place. You have saved against a poison attack and a hold person spell, and that was going to be both of their turns. So that takes us to you, Alanere.
I was worried we weren't going to make it to my turn. All right. So I will be using both my ships for an advanced shape-shifting, and I'm going to turn into a giant ape.
Okay. So that's a large
I'm
creature,
going
right?
apeshit.
He's going
No, this is a huge creature.
a
actually.
huge creature. Okay. All right. So a couple things will happen then. First, you got to be big. So bear with me a second while I make you big.
Does it make him restrained just because he's in a basement now?
It does. It is a bit.
He
It is a
might
bit
be
cramped.
bursting through the floor.
You essentially swell out. We'll say with the strength of your transformation. Go ahead and make a strength, just a straight up strength check or athletics check with your new strength as the giant ape.
All right. Well, the ape actually does have athletics.
Yes.
So let me make that roll.
I think just by growing, you knocked one of the guys over.
Ow. 15.
15 is good enough. Even with a 4, that's not a 4 on the die. 15 is good enough. You hear the sound of the manacles shattering as your limbs swell, your muscles flex, your body grows to immense proportions. You begin to feel the coarse fur start to sprout from your skin. You hear the tearing of cloth as the head bag is ripped from your head as it also expands out and bursts the bag that was trying to blind you. Your body swells out and you bodily knock the attacker behind you a full pace back. You're in there. You're wedged pretty tight, as this is a pretty cramped basement in the first place. But as you burst out, you feel the oaken casks around you. They're mounted against the walls and the floor, so they don't move. But you bump up against him, and you hear a crack as your body swells to fill the space, and the strength of your rage, the strength of the magic that causes you to change form, causes you bodily to thrash against the casks, and it appears that perhaps one of the casks has in fact been damaged. Oh, is that
All right.
a full action for you, or is that a free action?
No, I'm Circle of the Moon, so that's just I think it might just be a bonus action. Let me double check.
That's just the
Bonus
beginning.
action. That is only the beginning.
That is only let's see.
Wait, there's more.
But wait.
Yes. Wild Shape is only a bonus action.
That's fantastic. All right, so then you swell up as a giant ape. Unfortunately, I don't have a giant ape for you to change your portrait to, but we'll work with what we've got. So you can see around you, standing around you. Does the giant ape have infravision?
Giant ape. It does not have infravision, actually.
You still see darkness. There is some very, very dim light that is filtering in from above, and so you will recognize the 5 figures that there are in fact 5 figures standing around you and their relative positions. But any more than that, any more detail than that, you don't have at this point in time.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm thinking I'm just going to... Can I use these casks as a stepping stone? And I basically want to jump onto one of those and jump up through the floor, smashing the floor.
Oh,
and going up
okay.
into the tavern.
Awesome. All right. So then you essentially just clamber up on top of you brace yourself against the cask below and try to propel yourself up through the floorboards. Great.
Yes.
I love it. Make me another athletics check.
All right. 18.
18. Yeah, we'll say 18 is enough. So you smash. Well, okay. So it is enough that you smash. You physically break the floorboards directly above you. It's not enough for you to just Superman your way up through the floor and land up above, but you just surge upward. Your head and shoulders and your fists smash into the smash into the floorboards above your head, and you hear the splintering of wood, and you're standing atop the cask. Your head and shoulders effectively are up in the tavern above, and you hear shrieks of fear and surprise. You probably scatter a table and some chairs. It's likely that you came up underneath a chair or someone sitting in a chair, and you've unseated them and thrown them to the floor. There are shouts that ring out in the tavern up above, and the light from up above pours down into the room that you are into the cellar that you're in. You can now, in fact, see that there are three similarly dressed drow with blades and bows that are surrounding you. There is a fourth drow figure that is atop one of the cask that is next to you, kind of crouched, and he is in robes as opposed to like leather armor. And then go ahead and make me a perception check at disadvantage.
All right. Still use mine, so it'll be. I'll just roll it twice because I don't have it set for.
That's fine. You can, just roll it twice, and we'll take the lower of the two.
Oh, wait. There we go. There's disadvantage. Okay, how do I get back to my actual rolls? Here we go. There we go. All right.
Perception.
So 13 with disadvantage.
Okay. So you can see, so you see the three figures that are the three drow figures, the four drow figures, and the figure of Queen Christine, who appears to have struggled to her feet. She is actually standing behind the third, the first of the drow figures, the one that you were talking about before. He doesn't seem to be paying any attention to her now. He is leveling a bow in your direction, or a hand crossbow in your direction.
Yeah.
So you have broken through the floor. You could potentially use your move action to try to clamber up. But that's going to be another check to try to pull yourself up, if that's what you're wanting.
Yeah, I absolutely want to pull myself up through.
Great. Then go ahead and make me an athletics check one more time, or acrobatics, depending on what you decide that you want to do. You're basically just trying to pull yourself up and through the kind of the debris and gain purchase on the area above so that you can pull yourself through the hole that you made.
Yes. I'll just be using athletics to pull myself up through.
Okay. Oh, yeah, 29.
29.
No problem at all. As you do that, so you're again using the cask below you to kind of push yourself off. You're pushing up off of it, and you hear it crack and break, and there's a gush of fluid as you essentially you kick your powerful legs and thrash your way up through the ceiling, through the floor, and into the room above, leaving the drow and the queen behind. But you can hear that a flood of fluid, or a rush of fluid, is pouring out of the cask that you just broke into the cellar below. And there's shouts from the drow below, as well as they're shouting, "Get him! Get him! Oh God, what is that?" Essentially. And you're up and out into the tavern itself. I don't have a map for that. But you were effectively clear of the battle, but you've used your move action effectively to get up out of the hole. So
Yeah.
you're in the room above, essentially around, just trying to scramble away from the hole itself. I'm going to say that for their turns the next time, they are going to attempt to shoot at you. They will have disadvantage because you've got cover. But they're going to attempt to shoot at you through the hole, and they're in rough terrain now because you've essentially turn the dirt floor of the inn below into a quagmire of spilled ale or wine or whatever, and dirt. So they're in difficult terrain, but they are attempting to get around the hole and shoot at you. So once again, disadvantage. That's going to be 3 shots coming your way.
Okay.
So go ahead.
My AC in this form is 12.
12. Got it. Okay. You are a big guy. It's gonna.
Yes, very large target.
You're hard to miss. All right. So first 2 rolls are a 19 and a 4, plus 7. The first bolt goes wide. Second bolt also goes wide with a 9 to hit. Now I'm rolling poorly. And then the third and final bolt is a 15, so that one's going to get you. It's going to do 1d6 points of 8 points of piercing damage, and I need you to make that Constitution saving throw again, but this time with your new form.
All right. Let me see. So it's 9. Okay. 15.
15 is a success. You are able to shake off the effects of the poison once again. Okay, so that's going to end their turn. They are rushing across the floor. You can hear them as they're attempting to shoot you. They all take their shots, and then they're trying to stagger out of the cellar to intercept you in the area above. But they're not going to make it anywhere near getting up to you this turn. Even the closest one is only going to be able to move about there. This guy will move about here. This guy will move about here. The wizard, on the other hand, is going to cast another spell, and that is going to be a lightning bolt. Oh, no, it's not. It's going to be even worse than that. So he casts a spell. He goes through the motions, and he's no longer whispering. He's shouting out his incantation. And as he completes it, a wave of you feel a wave of arcane energy wash over you, and not over you specifically, but the room around you, and it conjures forth a billowing yellowish cloud of poison vapor. So as a cloud kill takes shape, and you can immediately just see the denizens, the patrons of the inn above you, or the tavern above you, start to expire as this cloud of lethal gas starts to roll over them. None of them are capable of weathering that kind of arcane assault, and they're clutching at their throats. Their faces are breaking out into horrible boils, and they're dropping like flies all around you. So bear with me just a second while I get the actual results, what it means for you. Come on, Cloud Kill.
Keep tally of that Draugg kill count.
Yeah, someone should tell him that you don't get experience for those.
Bear with me just 1 second as I get the Cloud Kill. And come on. Scroll faster, old man. There we go. 20-foot radius sphere. Yeah, no problem. Creature enters the spell's area for the first time or starts its turn there. Okay, so it's not gonna hit you until the beginning of your turn, which is technically now. So go ahead and make me a Constitution saving throw.
All right.
So
23.
23. Okay, so you will take half damage. It is 5d8 poison damage, but you'll get half of whatever I roll. So bear with me just another second. 5d8. It's going to be 19. So rounded down, that is 10 points of poison damage on the first turn. That is still going to be more than enough for all of the patrons that are unable to make their saving throws, very likely. And even those who are able to save 10 hit points of damage like that is going to kill pretty much anybody else up there. So your people are dropping like flies all around you. Fortunately, perhaps, the place is not packed, but there's probably a good dozen, maybe dozen and a half people in the tap room of this tavern, or at least there were.
All right.
And then we are back to. You hear a blood-curdling scream from below, as the voice of Queen Christine Dragonsbane. It sounds like a death cry.
Oh.
As you thunder off, I assume, into the night.
Oh, yeah, I'm literally double moving through the doorway, probably taking most of the door and part of the frame with it.
Yeah, so you smash through and are into the night. And fortunately for you, it is late enough that it is unlikely that there's anyone like directly around the inn, or even if there are, they are immediately trying to scramble away from you. Probably no watch, which would be the next thing that you would be concerned about as a giant ape trying to scramble clear. Nobody challenges you as you are on your way out the door. And that's it. That is where we will end the encounter as you thunder off into the dark, still as a giant ape, or as a huge giant ape. Smash through the door to or even the wall. You just find a flimsy enough portion of wall and smash out into the alleyway and then into the street, and then what?
My goal is to pretty much head out into the nearest wood, because I think we got the hagwood right outside.
That's true.
Or a little ways away.
The hagwood is not actually a forest. It's named the hagwood because of like the forest of banners and tents and things like that.
Okay. Well, I assume that I'm heading I'm looking for an oak tree.
Okay.
So I'm heading out at full pace until I can find an oak tree.
Okay. Then, so you are aware that there is probably a stand of trees up in the hills up above the town, which is just to the northeast of where you are. So we can lose this map. We will go back to the Helio map proper, and so you're in the Shadow Gap area. You flee north and east away from the Shadow's Rest and get up into the hills, and there are wooded stands within the hills themselves, and you could likely find an oak tree there.
And from there, I will release my form, and I'm going to cast Transport via Plants.
Okay. Transport via Plant. All right. What is your destination?
I am going to the Oak fucking Manor.
Oakheart it is.
Oakheart.
All right. So, just a few minutes after midnight, this whole thing lasted probably less than 10-15 minutes as you were plumbing the depths of the cellar beneath the Shadow's Rest, finding what you found, and then escaping with your life. It takes you a little bit longer to get up into the hills and locate the tree that you're looking for. So it's likely sometime between 12:30 and 1 when you step into the oak tree up on the Shadow Hills above the city of the city of Heliogabalus, and step out into Oakheart. As you do so, you find there are a number of people that are in the courtyard of the city, or the manor, and appear to be, even this late into the night, there are torches that are set all around, and they are furiously working on setting up banners and streamers and decorations just in general. You recognize Durbin Holy as one of the individuals that is out there that is kind of directing traffic, and there's a small army of servants and guards that are in the courtyard. You are immediately set upon by the house guard as you step out of the tree, and it's with a lot of fanfare. There's a crackling sound as the tree opens up, and you rush out. You startle the hell out of some innocent servants, and then the house guard of Oakhart are upon you in a flash. But a clear voice rings out in the darkness. Hold! This one is a friend. Let him be. Durban Holy, recognizing your face as you step out into the firelight. Bloodied, perhaps.
Oh, most definitely bloodied.
Disheveled. And he says, "What has happened? Someone fetch the Baron. Come, sir. Inside."
He says, "I need to speak with Eldrick."
"Right away. Say no more." And he gestures with you, does not take you through the main entryway to the manor, as you're in the internal courtyard. Let me flip over to Oakhart. That was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Oakhart. There we go. So you pop out in the main section, the central section of the manor, right through here. He takes you in through this door in the south section, which leads directly to a stairwell, which takes you up to the second floor, and that will take you up to here. And he brings you into this room where there is similarly a set of servants that are working on the decor, and he immediately banishes them. He's like, "All of you out." Leads you out to where you can sit near the fire, and stays with you until Eldrick arrives. Eldrick, you are. I don't know if you were asleep or not. It's close to first bell after midnight.
Yeah, probably.
So you are roused from your sleep. An urgent voice, a banging on your door. "Baron Oks, a visitor for you. It is Master Holy sends his most urgent request for your presence."
Eldrick will just throw on his bedrobe and get going.
So Eldrick comes out from his chambers and comes to the sitting room. You find Holy and Alanere. Alanere looks disheveled. He looks bloodied. He looks a little worse for wear, if I'm being honest. A little pale. A little wild-eyed. But alive. And go ahead and make me a perception check.
Do love perception checks. They are my very favorite. That is not a perception check. 15, right on the nose.
The unmistakable scent of what smells like chlorine. Strong tang of like chlorine gas.
I will cross the room expediently, not particularly caring for my robe, which is probably flapping in the wind, and I will immediately use cleansing touch on him.
Okay.
For removing any, and I'm going to assume he's willing because he's seen me do this before.
Oh yeah, I'm willing.
He's heard the prayer to Ilmater. May Ilmater wash away the sins of the foul or some such. Verse 18, chapter 37, book 525.
All right. I'm gonna pause this. I'm gonna pause this right here for just a second. I have to take my final break of the evening. We will come back in just one more minute and wrap this session up for the evening. So, 1 second, guys. Thank you for your patience. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And we're back. Thank you. Once again, duty calls. Daddy duty is number one. We will dive right back in to wrap up our session with Eldrick and Alanere in the sitting room, the family sitting room of the second floor of Oakhart. Master Holy says to passes by Eldrick and says, "I will post a guard at the door. No one is to be let in unless you say so."
I'll meet him eye to eye. Thank you, Master Holy.
He gives you a nod, very crisp. Walks out the door, and you can hear him immediately raise his voice to call for exactly what he said he would do.
What happened? How hurt are you?
I mean, I'm hurt. I don't know. There was enough poison around. I don't know if there's any lingering in my system yet or not. I guess I should explain. I got a message from what I believed was Queen Christine. I had actually met her earlier, a couple days earlier. And so she had sent me a message through an animal messenger saying that the palace was compromised, and to meet her in the Shadow Gap. Well, I knew it was a trap. 2 druids meeting in a city, please. Rookie mistake. But I needed to at least spring the trap. But foes are against us in the city. Someone was posing as Queen Christine, bloodied, gasping for breath, and some drows made appearance and basically said I was going to be going away with them. I was a thorn in their side, and they tried to have me drink ale laced with Helmstone. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but it's
Not particularly.
It's a very rare stone from the West. It really kind of made its appearance during the time of troubles. It's has very like anti-magic properties.
That's unfortunate.
Luckily, I managed to use a flame I was using for light down in the cellar of a seedy tavern. And I used that to kind of utilize the drow's aversion to light, and I kind of let the ale fall out of my mouth instead of drinking it, which is probably what saved my life. But there are drow working in the city, and they said that I was a thorn in the side of their master.
Well, that certainly begs the question of Master. Which of our companions knew that you were headed to this place?
None.
Oh, Alanere.
Sometimes to bring out the cockroaches, you have to go in the darkness and let them surround you before you throw on the light.
Sure, but like, you could have taken our elven fly swatter. I'm just saying. You got a guy for that. You got a drow problem. You got a guy for that. Anyway, I'm glad
I
to see
didn't
that
realize
you saved.
it was drow, but
Oh, that's fair.
the lady posing as Queen Christine as I was escaping, they
You
seemed
don't-
very adamant not to let me escape, and they tried.
You don't think it
They
was
tried hard.
You don't think it was Queen Christine?
Absolutely not, because as I was escaping, I heard some like death wail come from her.
Interesting. So wait, you said you met Queen Christine previously. Do you think that that was Queen Christine?
Now I'm starting to wonder.
By previously, I assume you mean on this visit to the city.
Yes, as in just a couple days ago.
Are you fit enough to contact the actual Queen Christine right now to find out?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if the one that I met was a real one or not. And that's the only one I know in the city.
Yeah, but
Now
you
I'm a
were
little bit...
but you were hired by, like, you were like much time ago. You were recruited by a real Christine. Yes.
Yes.
Like we don't think the Christine that made me a Baron is fake Christine, do we?
At this point, I don't know.
Well, that's not what I like to hear. Well, that sounds bad. We should get the Scooby Squad together. I'm sorry. We should get the Protectors of Damar together and figure out what our next moves are. If there are drow under the city, I think our friend Thoros'l would be, I don't think happy's the right word, but not angry to find that out. And there's also a question about where our friend Sprout went. I would hope that he was not kidnapped by drow. That would be unfortunate.
But whoever these drow were, they had trap was specifically for me. They had ways to try and they had poison specifically for me. This was well planned out.
So whoever they are,
were
they know
targeting me
that we are against them.
They do.
They're quite foolish. We didn't even know they were in this city until now. Do you have any sendings? Can you reach out to Thoros'l and Makaria and possibly Sprout to bring them here?
I do.
I don't think being outside of the manor would be safe for them at this point.
Probably not. Apologize for the time, but as soon as I got away, I felt best to escape somewhere I knew was safe.
No, certainly this was the right place to come, and fear not the time. The house is big enough that I doubt your appearance here as Wogan Mother, and quite honestly, I've rested cushy enough for the week. So if you could contact our friends and get them here, that would be appreciated. I will go and tell Master Holy to expect them.
All right, I will do so. And
I'm gonna put a hand on his shoulder and pump 20 points of lay on hands into him.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna turn for the door and go speak with the guard.
All right. Well, that is where we will end tonight's session, with a narrow escape. More questions, but perhaps some answers as well. Thank you to everybody who came out tonight to join us for Bloodstone. Again, I apologize for the kind of infrequent sessions of late. Hopefully, as things kind of start to stabilize on my side a little bit, we'll be a little more consistent in our Tuesday schedule. I hope everybody had a good time tonight. I know I did. It's been a very interesting session thus far. Join us again next week for episode 15, and we'll see how the companion protectors respond to the news of drow operating within or beneath the city of Heliogabalus and an assassination attempt. The second assassination attempt, potentially, in one day.
Spoiler alert, we're going to respond with violence.
Join us on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday this week for more Arampocalypse. We will be announcing a slightly altered schedule for our Thursday, Friday, Saturday streams going forward. We're going to be trying out something new. Tune in, same dad time, same dad channel, on Thursday, 10 p.m. Central, for Air Apocalypse action. Join us again next Tuesday, hopefully next Tuesday, for episode 15 of Bloodstone. Guys, have a great night, and we will see you next time. Good night.
Have a good evening.